So is this just picky eating? That was the question that I first started to ask myself. Is this just picky eating? Is she going through a phase that means that she'll snap out of it, she'll start eating normally again? This is the question that if you're watching this, you might be asking yourself about your child. But I'll tell you a little bit about my experience and how I first noticed that this was more than just picky eating. My daughter came out of school one day and she said that she'd been given a lesson by a PE teacher about good and bad foods. Now, I double checked that these were the words used, and they were good and bad foods. She was told that cheese is bad, low-fat crisps are bad, pasta in excess is bad. All the things that she liked eating, Nutella is really bad. You shouldn't have Nutella. And she was very troubled by this when she came out of school. She looked very troubled and she spoke about it and she was very upset. And she wouldn't eat a tea. So I noticed straight away that it had had an effect. And then we noticed from that day forward that she wasn't eating like she used to. I'd say almost overnight, she probably cut what she would have food-wise in half. She'd no longer have a dessert after her food. She used to love a McDonald's on a Tuesday. She would no longer have that. And I just thought it might be a phase that she's going through. She's always been strong-willed and she is, but no, she was really, really upset by what this teacher had told her. So what then happened was she started to say things to me like, why did you let me have this? This is really bad. You shouldn't have let me have this. Why did you let me eat that after my tea a few months ago? Why did you? And she was very, very vocal about the fact that she wouldn't be eating these foods anymore. So over time then, she started to strip out foods that she would eat until it got to the point where all she would eat was porridge oats. And it wasn't just any porridge oats, it had to be Irish porridge oats, because she'd read somewhere that there's about 30 calories less per portion in a bowl of Irish oats. So we had to get them, and she would eat fruit. She would eat blueberries and apples, and occasionally she would eat melon. We started to notice then that her weight had dropped, and it was, the weight loss was kind of gradual, I think. And I don't know if that was just because obviously I saw her all the time, so we didn't really notice the same. However, now when I look back at pictures, I'm quite horrified by how she did look. So after that, I did speak to school about it, and I said, please don't be giving lessons to children, especially children that are neurodivergent. I mean, obviously we only found out for definite recently, but I had my suspicions about what good and bad foods are, because you'll know yourself if you have a child with autism that the thinking is very, very black and white, and you can't talk them around. And this was the problem. It kind of fed into her OCD tendencies. So it got to Christmas time and she would only eat these safe foods. She wouldn't eat a Christmas dinner. And I had to do something. So I spoke to school and I said, I need you to get me in touch with CAMHS. So I spoke to a lovely lady at CAMHS and she was really nice. And she went through all of these questions with me about Esme. And she managed to get us in the new year in touch with the Children's Eating Disorder team. And it was from there that our journey began into getting Esme treated. And I'll talk a little bit more, obviously, about how she ended up hospitalised in a different video. So my advice would be, if your child starts to talk about food in a way that makes it sound, good or bad, if they sound fearful of what they're eating, if they talk about food as a means of reward, or if they talk about needing to exercise to counteract, the calories, then my advice would be to get in touch with school straight away and to get them to link you up with CAMHS. Don't get me wrong, my experience with CAMHS was not a good one. It was not a positive experience at all. And I know that if you go on many forums on the internet, you'll find that a lot of people, a lot of parents in this situation have a very similar experience. However, CAMHS did manage to get me in touch with the Children's Eating Disorder team. They referred us to there, and that is where we started to make some progress of sorts. So yeah, that is my advice. Don't hang on just thinking it's a phase and they'll grow out of it, because I wish now that I'd have acted a lot sooner. I wish I'd have gone with my mother's intuition, which is a theme throughout our entire story. I should have gone with my mother's intuition, and I think I'd have had her in hospital about 5 or 6 weeks sooner if I'd have been listened to. So trust your mother's intuition. If it doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. Speak to school, ask to get in touch with CAMHS, and then when you speak to CAMHS, insist that you are referred to the children's eating disorder team as soon as possible. You know your child better than anyone. If they're losing weight, if they're afraid of food, they're the people to speak to. Thank you.